Welcome to Boxing During Dinner. We're back here at RANDAZZO'S, David. We just said a joke before this, so David, he's still laughing. He likes it. You'll find out why, and I guess in the upcoming weeks and months, because David works on other projects, and a very successful guy over to my right.
Oh man,
extremely successful. But we got to talk about these fights this past weekend, David. We talked about these fights for weeks. Mikey Garcia and Salido and Genaddy Golovkin against Gabriel Rosado. As much as we thought Mikey Garcia was going to win the fight, because we both predicted Mikey would win, I did not expect the fashion that he would dominate Salido in this fight. And from the first round on, he kept on dropping him with punches, jabs,
it's usually how they do it. Punches, but
or kicks or elbows. But he kept on dropping him with all sorts of punches, from all angles. And the kid really impressed the boxing world. He went from, okay, this kid could possibly be champion, eke out a decision against Salido, to bona fide superstar overnight.
Yeah, I think he is the best fighter at 126 pounds. He took the guy who broke down the guy at 126 in Juan Manuel and literally outclassed him like a sparring partner. I mean, there were punches that were crisp, sharp punches, granted, but punches that wouldn't normally knock down a world champion like that. And he had Salido, dropped 4 times. Who knows? The fight was stopped in, I think, the 9th round.
Ninth round.
On the inadvertent headbutt, supposedly, that Salido landed on Garcia. But, you take this fight 10, 11, and 12 rounds, there's maybe even more knockdowns. I'm of the school that believes, no, the tide in this fight was not turning. Yes, Salido was making a better showing of himself as the fight was going on, which is a statement to him.
And I think at the end of the day, nobody really remembers the end of the fight. Nobody remembers the stoppage. No. The fact that Mikey Garcia's nose was bent over this way, I thought it was pretty ugly. When I saw in the corner and they were touching, I was like, ouch, that must hurt.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to remember the way the fight ended. What people are going to remember is that he kept on knocking down Salido. He dominated the fight. He's quicker than I actually thought. I'd seen Mikey Garcia in the past, but it seemed like he was getting out those shots quickly, which was effective. That's what was dropping Salido, because his punches, if you look at it from the standpoint of power, they weren't bone-crushing punches.
Not the ones that dropped Salido,
they were precise, they were on the money, and they were quick enough that Salido didn't catch him coming in.
Well, in a lot of ways, that reminds me of, and I'm not trying to compare these two guys, but Floyd Mayweather is known for something very similar, landing sharp, accurate punches that manage to have a greater effect than they might otherwise coming from another fighter. Garcia made a really impressive showing of himself. I think he's one of those guys who proved that when he can rise to the occasion when the occasion is necessary. He's fought to the level of his opposition, I think, in fights past, and that's why we were a little unsure about what Garcia was going to show up. But it turns out when he plays on this stage, he belongs there, every single part of it.
And you know what? You're the second person I know to make that comparison between Mikey Garcia and Floyd Mayweather. Obviously it's not that he's like Floyd Mayweather, but the fact that the way he was throwing those punches and landing them, Jesse Lozada from Telemundo, who we've had on the show before, said the same thing this past weekend. And yeah, it kind of reminded me of the way Mayweather was knocking down Corrales when they fought way back when. They were just like punches that landed on the money at the right time, and with the proper speed to be able to do some damage. And speaking of Garcia, with the fight he had, with the showing Brandon Rios had against Alvarado, with the year Nonito Donaire had, is there any dispute that Robert Garcia is the best trainer in boxing at the moment?
Well, it's hard to argue that his fighters aren't fighting better than anybody else's at the moment. It's hard to say. You're never in the corner. You don't know if these guys are ultimately responsible for the way the fighters are developing. The same way Freddie Roach for recent years was considered the class of the boxing world was because his fighters were performing well. They were all in their peak. I think that's what's happening with Robert Garcia. That's not to take anything away from him. I'm sure that he absolutely has a hand in this because his fighters are performing extraordinarily well. And we always have referenced, to me, what is the most important adjustment is to me Marcos Maidana, who's made a pretty quick adjustment in his style to the point where he might have a little longevity, but he lets guys fight their style of fights and does his best to work with what they have. And exactly, I think that's a testament to his style of training is working really well for his guys right now.
Which he's told us this in the past when we spoke to him about Brandon Rios. And one thing about Robert Garcia, which I love, not only the fact that he's a good guy, but you could just tell by his demeanor in the corner, after the fight, before the fight. Even that one time when Rios brawled with Richard Abreu down here at the Versailles, He had a smile on his face the entire time after this fight. When his brother won, he had this huge smile on his face.
He's exactly where he wants to be.
He's a great guy. You know, he comes from a boxing family. His father Eduardo, you know, great trainer for years with you know, Robert and also Fernando Vargas. And you know, now he's making a name for himself as a great trainer. His brother Danny, who trained Victor Ortiz, you know,
right,
a good trainer in his own right. And you know, I think he's proving to be the best trainer right now in boxing and the hot trainer in boxing. You know, now that Freddie Roach, you know, he's kind of, you know, gone a little bit, you know, a little backwards, you know, with Manny Pacquiao's loss and Amir Khan, etc., Chavez Jr. Not to take away anything from Roach, but
of course, but you're as good as your fighters, really.
Exactly,
you know, and that's unfortunately going to be the way it goes.
And on the same card, David, Genaddy Golovkin, who's I think replaced Carlos Molina as my man crush.
New man crush.
It's my new boxing man crush because my man crush is Derek Jeter. Let's not be mistaken. Derek Jeter is my man crush.
Yeah.
You know, when I have a son, because I will have a son, he will play baseball like Derek Jeter and live life like Derek Jeter.
What are you gonna name him?
Hooking up with the hottest freaking women. What am I gonna name my son?
Derek?
I don't think my wife will go for that.
Yeah, I heard you guys are going with the letter A. For those of you who don't know, Armando's wife, her name also starts with the letter A. His last name starts with the letter A.
Armando Alvarez.
Yeah, Anna Alvarez. So their child will probably also have the A, I imagine.
Yeah. We were actually thinking Amir, to be honest. Not because of Amir Khan, but it means Prince.
Well, you also have a crush on him.
And I don't want to name my kid Prince. Even though it went pretty well for Prince.
So we'll go with Amir.
We'll go with Amir, but
like
Genaddy Golovkin. Or I could just name him Genaddy.
Yeah.
I couldn't pronounce his name, last week? Thinking it was
I was
Genaddy.
proud of you today. You did well.
but Golovkin. David, I texted you after the fight, and I asked you a question. I said, can he beat Sergio Martinez? To which you replied, maybe in a year. I think today he beat Sergio Martinez. I haven't been this impressed with a fighter in a long, long time. To me, it's like mind-blowing because the guy doesn't even look like he's putting 100% in the ring when he's throwing his punches. Yet you look at Gabriel Rosado's face. He looked like Apollo Creed right before Drago killed him. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Gabriel Rosado's a big kid. He's a huge kid.
Yeah.
He was moving up from 154, but he looked like the bigger guy in the ring.
Yeah, he did.
And he took a severe beating at the hands of Golovkin. You know, not to take anything away from Rosado, but he got his butt kicked. And I think it's just a testament to how good Genaddy Golovkin is.
He is. He's got all the things that anybody would want in a guy, especially in the quote-unquote, you know, glamour division of the middleweights. He stalks his opponents down. He always looks patient. He always looks like he's taking his time, and he's always trying to kill you. and he did that for all intents and purposes against Gabriel Rosado.
And just the different angles he's throwing these punches at. That uppercut he connected in that last round was ridiculous.
He stalks you. He sets up. He's got power in both hands. All of his punches are fluid. He's got pretty decent speed, incredible hand power, which anybody who gets in the ring with him will tell you. And Gabriel Rosado, who had essentially said in the past that he would can his father and trainer, anybody who had a hand in pulling him out of the ring prematurely in a fight. That happened. They threw in the corner. The corner threw in the towel on this fight. And he later said, you know what, I saw the tape, good decision. I respect my corner for stopping the fight.
It was an excellent decision, and you know, and maybe one could even say they could have done it before, but you know, you got to give the kid credit. He's there fighting for the middleweight championship of the world at 160 pounds. You know, he proved that he's not one of these, you know, prima donna fighters of today, you know, wanting the catch weight or whatever.
Right.
And you know, he went up to 160, fought to me the best fighter at 160. Actually, you know, the most powerful fighter at 160, and you know, he hung in there.
Right.
I don't think he won a round.
No.
But he hung in there. You know, I mean, he was taking a beating, and kudos to his corner for stopping the fight. Yeah. I mean, they saved the kid's career.
Yes.
You know,
that eye was a mess when they stopped the fight.
The eye, the nose, the mouth. I mean, you had
everything.
These bubbles of blood coming out from his face. It was ridiculous. But David, I mean, the question is, and you know, I know you think he's not ready for Sergio Martinez, but I think he beats Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez. I think the guy that could possibly beat a Golovkin, or the fight I'd want to see, would be him against Andre Ward at 168.
He said he'd fight anywhere from 54 to 68, and I tend to believe it. The way that he fights, he absolutely would. Now, when I said that Sergio Martinez is still the class at 160, I do believe that, because he's taken on all-comers, he's beaten pretty much everybody, I think, impressively. And until there's, something that shows me that Martinez is not capable of adjusting, which he always has, then I'm still going to pick him for at least the next 6 to 9 months, okay? Because Sergio Martinez is about to get in the ring in April, and we're going to find out. When you're his age, and Sergio Martinez is 38 years old, you're about to find out just how quickly these guys age. And a guy who relies on his reflexes and speed, Martinez is bound to become that guy. It hasn't happened yet.
Unless you're Bernard Hopkins.
Unless you're Bernard Hopkins, yeah. But Hopkins hasn't really relied on his speed and his reflexes per se either. Martinez does. And
right,
I think
Martinez is a guy that fights with his arms down
and
by
he's
his
always,
knees.
So that to me makes a difference. But absolutely today, the best middleweight fight to be made is Martinez Golovkin. I don't think.
I agree.
And frankly, though, I have my doubts as to whether or not we'll ever see it.
And I've heard that they may throw him in later this year with Peter Killen, which would be a good fight. I don't think Killen is up to the level of Golovkin, even though the interesting part, David, Killen has a very good right hand.
Yeah.
And
we saw that against Endom.
And Golovkin got hit by Gabriel Rosado's right hand. Didn't do much damage, but he did get hit. I wonder what a right hand from Peter Killen would do against Golovkin.
Right. Well, Golovkin didn't leave this fight unmarked, either. For you pointing that out, it's important to say Golovkin gets hit, and if he gets in with a puncher, especially a guy with the right hand of Peter Killen, I think that that's an interesting fight. I think there's a lot of good fights to be made for Golovkin at this point.
Right, and I think the important part of all this is that we're talking about the 160-pound division. We're talking about Golovkin. We're talking about Killen. We're talking about Andre Ward and Sergio Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. There's excitement in the 160-pound division that we haven't had in a long time.
No, I agree. And even if Sergio Martinez were to retire tomorrow, I think that there's exciting fights to be made at 160 for quite a while. And let's not forget the full-bodied guys at 154 who could also move up as well.
And now the welterweight division is still the most talked about division. And there's rumblings all over the place. One with Floyd Mayweather Jr. To be quick, because I know we're a little short on time here, and we don't want to trouble our cameraman / editor / producer. But Floyd Mayweather Jr., I think the fight against Robert Garcia, at the time we're recording this, no fight has been signed, but I think it's going to be Robert Garcia.
Richard Schaefer reported today that contracts were issued to the part. So basically, the fight has been agreed to with whoever the opponent is. Contracts were issued. They don't want to jump the gun. By the time you see this episode, we may have a signed fight. Floyd Mayweather went on his own Facebook and Twitter today and said, "I don't have an opponent as of now. Robert Guerrero being named is just rumors." To me, that's him more or less saying, the contract's not signed. I think we're going to see Guerrero. I have my doubts as to whether or not we're going to see Canelo because of the stage, if you will, of having two pay-per-view kings on the same card now. There is some doubt as to whether or not Canelo will be on the card.
I think he will be on the card.
And I have my reason to think that ultimately it'll happen. There's still some doubt there.
Cinco de Mayo, it's an easy sell for the Mexican fan. Even though Robert Guerrero is Mexican-American, he's not Mexican. And my Mexican friends have let me know very clearly the difference between a Mexican and a Mexican-American.
They want a guy there shooting off his pistolas in the air.
Love Chavez, hate De La Hoya.
Right.
Love Eric Morales. Hate whoever else. Hate Brandon Rios. I don't think they hate Brandon Rios, but
sure.
They prefer the homegrown Mexican, Mexicano fighters that still live in Mexico.
If the fight happens, my money is on Austin Trout, and I hope that happens.
I hope it's Austin Trout. My money is on Alfredo Angulo.
Ooh.
I think that fight's bound to happen. And one more fight, before Alex cuts the camera off. Tim Bradley, they've been mentioning Yuriorkis Gamboa. I don't know how serious I could take this fight just because Gamboa would have to move up in weight. They were mentioning 140. Bradley wants to fight at 147. Either or, I think it's a good fight for Gamboa to take just because there'll be money in it. He'll have a chance to become welterweight champion of the world at the end of the day, whatever that's worth. And Tim Bradley's not a big guy, and he's not a big puncher. So I think there's risk for Gamboa. Obviously, he loses to the welterweight champion. But let's say he loses to the welterweight champion.
Yeah, he came up
to the welterweight
4 weight
champion.
classes.
But I don't think he'll get hurt. I don't think he'll get knocked out. And Bradley's about the same size.
Right. It should be. I don't think it's a fight that ultimately is going to happen. It seems like they're way too far away on what they agree the weight to be. But it's intriguing. Bob Arum himself said he's got an intriguing fight lined up for Bradley, and that to me has intrigue all over it. Interesting stuff happening at welterweight. I know we got to get out of here. The Mosley versus Malignaggi fight is apparently dead. It looks like that Malignaggi may face Andre Berto.
Better.
And should Lucas
Better
Matisse
fight.
win this weekend, he may match up on the same card against Marcos Maidana, which is a fight the boxing world has been begging for years.
That fight should be in Argentina for the Argentinian fans. And also Brandon Rios against Mike Alvarado too. I think it's going to happen no matter what Brandon Rios says. It's just a matter of the contract
Pray to the
happening.
boxing gods that it does.
Best fight of 2012 will be the best fight of 2013. I still pick Brandon Rios in that fight.
Yep. I'm on the same page.
So no boxing during dinner next week. It's Super Bowl week. We want you guys to enjoy the Har Bowl.
Right.
That's what they call it, the Har Bowl. I'm going 49ers. Who do you pick?
I got to go Ray Lewis. Seems like the team of destiny this year. Hard to vote against that guy. The 49ers on paper have the better team, but on the field things have been looking different. I think the Ravens are going to win.
I think Frank Gore will win one for the U, even though there's two guys from the U, Ed Reed and
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis.
I think Ray Lewis is going to literally kill the opposition and do whatever it takes to win.
I'm not going to go there. With that, we'll leave you.